Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to show you how to make a ball bouncing animation. So for this animation you can use any animation software you want. I'm going to be using Adobe Animate 2023. I know I haven't updated my Adobe Animate, it is the year of 2025, but I did have this one on my laptop, so I'm gonna be using this one. So first we need to determine the movement of the ball. So basically we will be creating an arc on which the ball will be bouncing down. So basically something like this. So hold on. So I just have the brush tool selected right now, and I will be making an arc like this just to show how the ball will be bouncing, and then later on we'll be animating a ball bouncing along this arc so that we don't have to determine it while animating and then we're like, making an animation where the ball is here and then it's just kind of a weird movement and unnatural. So basically you can make like any type of arc you want. So I'm gonna be making one like this that comes in high from the side, then just kind of gradually bounces down. Actually, I kind of want it more like this, like that. And then this will be my arc or the path along which my ball will be bouncing. So because I want to later discard this path because I don't want it to be in my animation, I will create a separate layer for this path and for my ball. So I hope your animation software that you're using supports at least to have two separate layers, because that's what we will need for today. So basically I have this layer selected and I made the arc. Now so that we don't accidentally move or modify this path, I will just lock the layer. If that's not possible in your software, that's fine. Just this ensures that while I'm drawing the ball, as you can see, the current layer is locked and I cannot modify it. So I will create a second layer, which will be the layer for our ball. So I kind of want a space of time between the beginning and before the ball comes, like it's empty before the ball comes in. So I'll just add a few frames before the ball comes in. I forgot to mention on the beginning, here the FPS is currently set to 8, but I will set it to 12. So in your animation software, whichever you are using, you can just set the frames per second to 12. Most animation software support this. I think any animation software should have the option set the desired FPS or frames per second. So I'm going to now create a blank keyframe and I will draw a ball coming in from the side. Now when animating a ball, let's say you're animating it along this path and then you draw one and then you go next frame, and all of those frames you're drawing the perfect circle. But that's not really what we do in animation. To make the animation a little more smooth, we will use an animation technique that's called squash and stretch. That is when an object in your animation, basically the faster it moves, the more it stretches. So for example, if I have a ball that will be moving in that direction, so if this is the last, this is the first, in between I will add one like this as if it's stretching, just to make it a bit more smoother, because it adds that effect as if it has like a motion blur or something like that. So undo button. All right, so now we've drawn this ball coming in from the side. Now we can add a new blank keyframe, and most animation software have this. It's called onion skinning. So what is that? Enabling the onion skin feature Basically allows you to see like what elements were on the previous frame. So let me just show you when it's enabled. So now I'm on a blank keyframe, but with a lighter color I can see what was on the previous frame. So basically this is not on the frame, it just shows me what was on the previous frame. So now I will now I know where the ball is, so I know where I can place the ball on this frame. I will add another blank keyframe, and so the more it goes down, the more speeds up. So the more it will be stretched and the less frames there will be. So the higher it goes, the more frames, and the lower it goes, the less frames, to give it that effect as if it's going fast. So oops, so it basically looks like this. So now on this frame I will draw it a little more moved and a little bit of stretch like that, and then I can add another blank keyframe. By the way, in Adobe Animate the shortcut is F7 to add a blank keyframe. To add a keyframe is F6, and to add a frame is F5. So I'm just gonna kind of stretch it a little more. And the more it goes down, the more distance between the ball there will be. Then on the next frame, whenever you use the squash and stretch technique, when making an object bounce off another object like a wall or any other object, usually the object tends to stretch. Like for example, if I have an object that's moving towards the wall, and when it collides, it's kind of gonna squash. It's kind of gonna like get squashed, and then it's gonna retract back to its form. So that is what we're gonna do here. So as you can see, it's about to collide with the floor, but it hasn't fully collided. As you can see, it's only halfway. So the other half will be kind of squashed out. As you can see, it's kind of squashed against the floor. And then on the next frame, you can kind of draw it fully squashed like that. And then because it doesn't squash and immediately bounce, you can add a little more frames on this place just to make it nicely squash. And then we will make it retract from the squashed back to its original like that, and then slowly move it up again the arc. And then of course add a bit of stretch. Now this is a smaller jump, so I will add a bit less of a stretch. And of course as we move up, the movement slows down, so we will add more keyframes. And as it moves down, we add a little more keyframes and add a little bit of stretch. As you can see, the ball is approaching the ground. So again, it tends to squash, which we will do here. Then it retracts. Then it goes up against the arc again. Now this is a very tiny jump, so I will not lift it off the ground too much, and I will also not stretch it too much. Now if you want, you can also animate the ball rolling, and you can little by little add less distance between every frame like this. Just kind of make the movement a bit slower like that. And in the end, it should look like this. And then I don't want the animation to end immediately here, because if the animation is looping, I kind of want to give the viewer a little more time to see the ball on that position. So I will just add a few frames like that. And then we can play the animation and see what it looks like. Now that looks pretty good, I'd say. If this is your first time animating and you've made it this far, good job. Now, we don't need this arc anymore, this path, because we've already animated the ball. So we can just select that layer and delete it. Now it looks nicer. If it looks a bit slow to you, you can go ahead and play around with the frame rate and just increase or decrease to your liking. I think it's kind of slow for me, so I'm gonna increase it to like 15, let's say, and then I'm gonna see how that looks. Now that actually looks pretty nice. I might though set it to around 18. I usually work in 18 or 24 frames per second when I animate, and now that looks pretty good. So again, if this is your first animation and you've completed it, good job. You can show your friends, your family, your progress in this. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I have on my channel how to export an animation from Adobe Animate. If you have Media Encoder, you can export it from Adobe Animate directly to Media Encoder, which it shows in the tutorial. If you don't have Media Encoder, you can use any other software, video editing software that compiles images together to make an animation. Like Blender's video editing does that too, so you can just import an image sequence and it turns it into a video. So Blender's basically 3D editing software in which I 3D model and have a bunch of videos on YouTube. So this was it for this video. I might make a video in the future about graphics tablets, which when you saw me using my taskbar, you might have seen Wacom Center. I've recently got a Wacom graphics tablet, the Intuos Pro 2017. I know the 25 version has come out, but I kind of, by seeing it, preferred the 2017 version just for the reason that the express keys are on the top. So yeah, that's about it. See you next time.